Oh,
I keep saying it.
he's in.
Don't be
Perfect.
scared now.
No, I'm not scared. I'm not. I was telling him pretty much. I'm assuming that's what he would say if I asked him the question, which I'm not going to ask the question. I'll let probably Chris or Jared ask the question.
About the formula?
Yeah, about the formula. Coach, we appreciate you joining the show. Second week in a row. Lloyd hasn't scared you off. Congratulations. Big win this weekend. A&M, number one team in the country. We talked last week. We felt like they've been playing as the most complete team in the country. Scores more runs than anybody, hits more home runs than anybody. The first two games, you held them to 4 runs. Bullpen and pitching staff has pitched extremely well over the last 3 weeks. What do you attribute to that, and how great was it to see I feel like that was probably the most complete series y'all had all year.
Yeah, it's a great weekend. The home environment was amazing. Really thankful to our fans for coming out and supporting us the way that they did. It really made a difference in the game. As far as the team, I think for 3 weeks we've played really good baseball. 9-3 over that stretch. I think we've really had 3 bad innings from the mound that entire time, and those obviously have come in the 3 losses. But I thought we were competitive. I thought the character in close games was what you're striving for it to be, and really thought the weekend was an opportunity. We were fortunate to have a team with as good a record as they had at home this late in the season. Able to win that series is a big deal, and it keeps us in the fight. And these guys are competing and playing our best baseball right now, which is a good thing.
Coach, now I want to make this clear. I'm talking about a spot and not a person, because you had it from the spot earlier in the year, and then baseball happens, right? And you go through the middle part of April, and it was a tougher part. How good does it feel knowing that once the game starts on game 1 or Friday night in this conference, that for a fact you're in a spot where you're going to get an opportunity to win at a game, because what's going on the mound is going to be quality work?
Yeah, I've believed all year on Friday and Saturday, when either of those guys are pitching their best, we're as good as any team in the country. And what you've gotten with Gage and Luke the past 2 weekends is they both pitch well. And when they both pitch well, that obviously gives us a great chance to win the series, which we have each of the last 3. And so I think Gage is hitting a stride right now. There's a lot of reasons for that, but really like where he's at from a mindset standpoint, a body standpoint, an execution standpoint. And, he's facing a formidable offense this weekend, and really held them in check. We talked about it before, that eliminating the big inning was huge. And in Friday night's game, they had 4, single run innings for 4 runs. And that allowed us the time and the ability to come back and win that game. So really good performance out of him. And, I think that's 4 in a row, because I still stand by. I pitched very good at Tennessee, and then obviously these last 3 Friday night wins.
Coach, you mentioned, doing things that haven't happened early in the season, right? We've talked about, a lot of people have talked about not being able to drive in guys or have that clutch or have the big moment at the plate. And then Pearson has the walk-off against the last weekend, right? And then this coming weekend, you have Texas A&M coming in, and Pearson comes up with another big hit, bases loaded, hits the double down the left field line, and really puts you in a position to take control of that game. And that's something that hadn't happened yet, right? And 2 weekends in a row, he's the guy that's done it. And it almost felt like you could feel the guys, and whether, it just felt like it for me. It just exhaled, like, okay, hey, it's finally kind of flipping our way now, and those moments are going our way because we've stayed the process and we stayed the course. Do you kind of feel that way, and how important has Pearson been the last few weeks of steadying this lineup?
Yeah, I love Josh, and I think I mentioned this last week because we talked about his walk-off hit against Auburn. You always want to win every game, and even though statistically maybe he hasn't had the best season, I just feel good when he's coming up with runners on base. He controls his heartbeat, stays within himself, stays within his plan, and is executing it. And, you got the home run guys with White and Jones and Travinsky, but that ability to just hit is something we've lacked a little bit. I think I mentioned this last week. This is a unique team, and all my teams have had high-level hitting ability and then developed into power, where I think we have plenty of power, but have lacked on just the pure hitter element. And when he's going, he's got that to him. And so he's sitting in that spot in the order for a reason right now, and really, really trust him. And, both hits, middle of the field the other way, off really good pitchers, two of the better relievers in the SEC. And you're right. It instills belief in the team, and kind of felt like it was our time this weekend. And Josh obviously contributing a lot to that.
When you change the variables and the environment around someone, there's always that unknown about, all right, what am I going to get? Obviously, I think we can all sit here and say and agree that a big change in environment and or variables is going from high school ball to college ball, right? Milam starts out the year smoking hot. Has he changed anything? And what did you learn about him, being able to see him, one, how he goes about his mental approach in those times, and how quickly he was able to come out of it and get to the other side of it, I guess physically, if you will?
Jared, I'm sorry. Who did you say?
Oh, Milam.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, he's baseball all the way, and he's an extremely good fit in our program, or playing for a coach like me, where you're not fitting baseball into the rest of your life. You're building your life around baseball. And, he has good skill set. That's obviously what's got him to this point in his career. He's a tough competitor, and that, worked very well early on. And then you're right. There was no way to have any of those freshmen prepared for what was coming, especially with how our schedule laid out. But he's done a really nice job. I think the at-bats in between the hits are getting better. He's understanding the strike zone. He's competing with two strikes, doing a lot of really, really good things right now.
Hey, Coach, this is Chris McGee. Man, I'm new to the show for today, but I've shaken your hand before. I was in the stadium on Saturday. I wanted to ask you about a moment. Holman gets there. I guess it was in the fourth or fifth, and the bases are loaded. Nobody's out, and man, he just comes up with three big punchies, and not just punching out anybody. Pretty good hitters in their lineup. Then he got Targash, which hadn't had a great year, but then he got those two guys at the top that have just been smoking hot. Can you tell us a little bit about just thoughts in the dugout, the feeling, the energy in the dugout, what that meant to the team when that moment happened?
Yeah, I mean, that was immediately after we tied 3-3, after being down 3-0. And the last
rebounds.
Was go out and load the bases with no outs. And so it was really interesting. On the second walk, which was to load the bases with no outs, Luke showed some emotion like I haven't really seen before. He grabbed the ball and snapped his glove, and I was like, whoa, this is going to go really good or really bad. And with that, I believe he's one of the best pitchers in college baseball, hands down. And I really think the entire outing on Saturday night showed why. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning, didn't have great command, they hit some mistakes, and then immediately proceeded to get us a couple zeros to allow us to tie the game. Then, as you mentioned, loaded the bases with no outs, and then to strike out Targash, Grahovac, and Lavalette, awesome. And I felt like that really fueled the team, fueled the stadium for the rest of the game. And we needed that, because Sadeo, their reliever, is one of the best relievers in the SEC, and he didn't give us much for a while. And so that allowed us to settle in and come back and get on top in the 7th and stretch the lead in the 8th. And so really great performance by Luke. And like I said, I believe in him as much as anybody, and he showed why on Saturday night with that performance.
Coach, going into this weekend, I think a lot of people were hoping to win one. Right? People were talking, the number one team in the country is coming in. LSU's playing really good baseball, but we haven't really seen them consistently do it. You'll go in there, obviously, full belief that y'all are going to go and win this series. you go ahead and you win the series. You take the first 2 games from A&M. You put yourself in a position now where you are still fighting for a postseason spot, but you put yourself in a little bit more favorable position with 6 games left in the SEC. Obviously, you have Northwestern State tomorrow, but both of the teams that you play have a higher RPI than you do as a team. And so I think, I would imagine winning those games is only going to help your postseason chances. I know you're game to game and you're focused on game to game, but has that been a conversation for the guys? Like, hey, y'all have played good enough these last 3 weeks now. Y'all play like we know y'all can. Y'all put yourself in a position to kind of control your own destiny.
Yeah, and I think, we do keep it game to game, 1 pitch at a time. Like, that's like my whole deal. But I think, them having hope in what there might be at the end of the rainbow has helped them with whatever you want to call it, urgency, ability to just maintain focus on what we're trying to do and keep it pitch to pitch. And, even after the game yesterday, I mean, obviously didn't love how the 9th inning lasted, but whether we lost 9-3 or 14-4, like, that has no bearing on anything.
Right.
What I didn't want to happen is we played great for 22 of the 27 innings and really put ourselves in position to sweep with 15 outs to go. And that they deserve a lot of credit for that. And so I didn't want, the last 4 innings of yesterday to
Right.
ruin that. Tomorrow's a very important game in terms of the context of postseason. It's an opportunity for us to finish the non-conference schedule 23-3. And there's maybe only a handful of teams that will have that out-of-conference record. We've beaten a lot of teams that are on the, proverbial bubble. Like, if you go head-to-head, we've won all of those games. The only 2, honestly, that fit into that category are the next 2 SEC opponents that we're playing that have, good RPI. So everything is right in front of us. I told them afterwards we've put ourselves or kept ourselves in the fight, and the players deserve all the credit for that. And we've been in Game 7 or playoff baseball here for the last 3 weeks, and they've had a great response to it, and I'm excited to continue on that journey with them.
Coach, I would imagine you've probably put together a lot of the schedule, understanding that these are going to be tough games. These are going to be growing moments for these guys to be able to kind of get to where they want to go, which they have done every bit of that when it comes to the non-conference schedule. And then you get into the conference play. You have a tough schedule. It gets hard. It gets rough at one point. Does the weekend like what you just had against an A&M team who's the number 1 team in the country, who's been playing lights out, who's done everything right, does that kind of give you that, I won't say aha moment, but like showing the team like, hey, I know I've been telling it to you all year, but this is what you're capable of, and don't forget that.
Yeah, I think it certainly can. I mean, you guys are athletes at the highest level, and when you execute and you win and you perform, it definitely fills your belief. And I think that definitely our team could use that from this weekend. I haven't wavered in that, with our team, even in the trying times, and, have kind of figured out a way that works for us to help message things for them and help them be their best. And that's what coaching is. But they deserve the credit for growing up through that tough stretch. I thought early in the year we were maybe even like a little bit ahead of schedule. We played great in Houston, won that tournament, have some really good non-conference wins. And then, getting into that's a tough deal. I mean, you're dealing with 3 top 5 teams in the matter of 4 weeks, 2 of them on the road, who I believe in one of the polls this week were number 1 and number 3. And then, you beat number 1, 2 out of 3. Like, I don't know that anybody outside of Auburn has played the schedule that we have, honestly. And so we've hopefully, survived the storm. We got bloodied, got beat up, but there's a lot of value when you come out of the other side of that in terms of showing you what you're capable of. And I hope this weekend, fuels that belief and we continue to play in the character we have the last couple weeks, this week and into next week.
All right, Coach, I think we're going to get you out of here on this one. Boyd's going to let me shut it down, I guess. But wanted to ask you about just the last few outings for Christian Little and just kind of, for lack of a better term, emergence of him and what that can mean to the ball club?
Yeah, I think it means a ton, as you saw. I mean, we just won the series against the #1 team in the country largely because of Christian's performance. I mean, that was elite of elite.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a game where I think he's going out there and executing. It's like, hey, you know what? We have the advantage now on the pitching side of things. And, there's been a lot that's gone into that. First, I will talk about him, and I might have said this last week, but in the midst of our team struggling and maybe even him struggling a little bit, even though I think he's had a very good season, he stayed super engaged in what did the team need out of him? How could he help, in the situation? And then a few weeks ago, looking at some of the analytics stuff with Jamie Tudko, we made a significant shift in what he was doing, and him and Coach Yeski worked hard on that. And now we're seeing the talent that, I knew we had when we brought Christian here. And, he's part of a contributor on a national championship team last year. And, the emergence of this team, he's right at the forefront of that, and excited for these next few weeks for him to keep executing the way that he has.
Coach, obviously we're excited for these next few weeks as well as fans. We're excited to see the emergence of him and the emergence of the team. Y'all are playing really good baseball. We don't want to keep you too long, so we appreciate your time as always. We appreciate you squeezing us in. I didn't let Lloyd speak to you today. He's in timeout.
I'm texting your wife.
So I want to make sure.
So thank her for setting up the Zoom.
I want to make sure that you knew, we muzzled him today. We didn't want to give him too much free. He knows you're in a good mood, so I think he was going to try to take advantage of that. And I didn't want him to do that.
I bullied Ashton Larson enough today.
Yeah, Ashton came on the show, by the way. Unbelievable kid.
Great.
His answers are very well thought out. He's a very
baseball robot.
Yeah. Not a robot, but he's a baseball guy, and he's got a really bright future. So, we appreciate him coming on. We obviously appreciate what you do. We're gonna be watching this weekend, watching next weekend.
We're watching tomorrow.
We're gonna be watching
tomorrow. Don't forget about tomorrow. Big game.
Forget about tomorrow.
Big game.
Enjoy your night, Coach. We'll have you back on next week. We appreciate it. Good luck this weekend at Alabama.
All right, guys. Great to see you.
You too.
Don't let LSU get